Hello, my name is Michael Johnston, and I'm a senior computer science major here at BGSU. Today, I will be presenting on my research titled Survey on Rule Compliance in the Mass Public. This research studies COVID-19 mask mandates as a device for understanding how the mass public complies with rules as a function of legitimacy. My research is constructed around the idea of rule compliance. Rule compliance, or the extent to which a rule is followed, is influenced by morality and obligation, the perceived fairness of a rule, and the legitimacy of the institution handing down the rule. The research on rule compliance uses these concepts to tell us how a community complies with a rule given by a singular institution. The research fails to address how rule compliance varies when the rule comes from different institutions. This research aims to contribute to the existing body of knowledge on rule compliance by investigating how a rule given by two different institutions affects compliance. More specifically, I investigate to what extent BGSU students are likely to comply with a mask mandate prescribed by either BGSU or the Ohio Department of Health. My background research shows that people comply with rules often to the detriment of potential financial gain, simply because they feel an internal obligation to comply. For example, fishermen in Malaysia follow regulations simply because it is the right thing to do, and citizens in England and Wales comply with the police because they have internalized a shared sense of purpose that exists within their community. Regarding fairness, the existing research tells us that higher levels of perceived fairness of a given rule correspond to higher levels of compliance with that rule. Moreover, how an institution uses their power to compel individuals to comply has a direct effect on the perceived fairness of the institution. Legitimacy subsumes the internalization of shared moral purpose and obligation, as well as the fairness perceptions. Broadly speaking, when an institution is viewed as legitimate, it is better able to motivate those who are part of the institution to comply with the laws and rules it sets forth. In fact, I find the research tells the story that there is a causal relationship that exists between legitimacy and compliance. Walters and Blogger conject that there lies future work in identifying factors, in addition to procedural justice and fairness, that serve as building blocks of legitimacy. I concur and posit my theory that community credibility plays a role in the attribution of legitimacy, as well as the degree of rule compliance. In addition to the aforementioned research, Licht et al. Provide an agency theory that shows that the more transparent an agent is, and the easier it is for the principal to be close to the work being completed by the agent, the more likely a principal is to ascribe legitimacy to an institution. I connect the agency theory provided by Licht et al. With the legitimacy research previously mentioned to show that principal-agent relationships in conjunction with legitimacy perceptions have a joint effect on rule compliance. Accordingly, I present my hypotheses. 1, a smaller perceived distance in the principal-agent relationship will result in a stronger community connection and higher compliance. And 2, survey respondents will react to the treatment conditions in ways congruent with the existing body of knowledge, thus increasing the external validity. The survey is set up with 8 vignettes that apply a very weak treatment to the respondent. Following the treatments, I strive to tease out potential compliance, as well as elements of shared purpose, obligation, perceived procedural fairness, legitimacy, and perceived distance between the principal and the agent. On this slide, you can see 2 examples of vignettes used in the survey with the respective treatment conditions highlighted. Again, to account for combinations of the treatment conditions, there are 8 total vignettes. As an example, the top vignette displayed, which imposes the university, punishment, and independent decision treatments, reads as follows. Earlier this year, President Rogers and Chief Health Officer Ben Beatty mandated face coverings for the entire BGSU community. BGSU enforces this policy via a faculty and student staff policing model where there are formal university consequences for failing to follow the policy. President Rogers and Chief Health Officer Beatty decided to implement this policy after an executive session meeting with the Board of Trustees. So what is a practical example of my hypothesis playing out in this survey? For example, I would expect the BGSU student receiving the university vignette to feel closer to Ben Beatty and Dr. Rogers, which would, in theory, increase compliance, compared to a student who receives the state vignette and may feel further removed from Dr. Acton and the Ohio Department of Health. At a 7.5% response rate for 5,000 students who were emailed the survey, the results show two things. One, a principal component analysis revealed that the principal component is comprised of the questions that measured adherence to the mandate, perceived moral duty, how much the respondent felt their voice mattered to the mandating institution, and how easy it would be to contact the mandating institution. The makeup of the principal component is significant for two additional reasons. First, it gives the results external validity as the factors in the principal component align with those factors of fairness, moral obligation, and overarching legitimacy that existing research says should play a role in compliance. And two, the principal component also includes the measurements for how much the respondents felt their voice mattered and the perception of ease of contact, which aligns with the theory that agency also plays a role in compliance. The second important finding is that the results show, with a significant T statistic of 3.96, respondents are more likely to adhere to the mask mandate when BGSU is the mandating institution. This, on a small scale, provides the hypothesis is true that stronger community connection and a smaller perceived principal-agent relationship will result in increased rule compliance. The survey design follows a randomized one-shot study through randomly exposing the test subjects to the 8 treatments and making an observation through a survey. I do not have a control group to compare to the treatment groups, but each randomly assigned group will act as the control for the others. The method of online surveys allows participants to take the experiment at variable times and places up to their discretion. This could affect focus and involvement with those responses. Further, the low response rate that the survey experienced resulted in small sample size and could negatively affect the validity of these results. Additionally, external validity will be relatively low. A random sample of students from BGSU will not prove to be effective in predicting attitudes of college students from, say, a university in Washington, as an example. In sum, my research set out to investigate rule compliance variance amongst different institutions, as well as the effect community credibility or the distance of the principal-agent relationship had on rule compliance. In showing a tangible difference in interinstitutional rule compliance, I hope this research can help to promote work between institutions to increase rule compliance. The path forward includes a revised survey on a national scale to increase the validity of the results and to confirm the conclusion that community credibility and smaller principal-agent relationship distances have a positive effect on rule compliance. Finally, I would like to thank the Center for Undergraduate Research and my faculty mentor, Dr. Joshua Boston, for making this research and project possible. If you would like to connect with me and discuss this project and its findings more in depth, please feel free to reach out via email. Thank you.